We are very excited for our next guest who has the record for YouTube video comments on Smarter San Diego TV. Please welcome back to the show, former Navy SEAL and veteran advocate, Andrew Paul.
There he is. Andrew Paul. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Love having you on the show because you give us a very fresh perspective on things, some things that I think are pretty important to the citizens of this country, the people who serve this country. One of the things that recently really bothered me that I wanted to ask you about is, you know, it had a Donald Trump rally here in San Diego at the convention center. There was a major ruckus in downtown. One of the things that continues to happen at Donald Trump rallies is there's a contingent of people who are burning the American flag. For me, that's something that's kind of a big deal in my opinion. But I know, and I've heard the PC answer before. I've heard it before. Hey, you know, it's their right to do this. But I want to know from a former Navy SEAL, someone who's put his life on the line for this country, how do you feel when you see people burning the American flag in the States?
Well, there's two parts to that answer. And the first part is that, you know, I'm a strong believer in civil liberties, personal liberties. And so on the one hand, I completely respect the fact that you have a protected right to say what you want, to express yourself under the protection of the First Amendment. And the Supreme Court, 1969, ruled that burning of the flag is, in fact, protected under the First Amendment. But you're an idiot for doing so. You're allowed to, but it doesn't mean that what you're doing is right and what you're doing is appropriate or that it's going to solve anything. Burning the American flag, all it's doing, it looks like a 3-year-old throwing a temper tantrum, and it's extremely disrespectful at the same time. Obviously, I fought for our country alongside my brothers, and you know, anybody who serves this country has a strong connection to the American flag. It does represent liberty and freedom. Look, when our guys die and their bodies come back from overseas, their coffins and caskets are draped with the American flag. When you're in the military, you learn a discipline of respecting, saluting, and honoring the flag because it represents freedom and liberty.
I mean, I'll tell you, for me personally, I take issue with it just because of the fact that, kind of what you alluded to, if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. You know, it's not that difficult to go somewhere else if you don't like America, what America stands for. Right. But I think the thing that people are forgetting when they're burning that flag is you're not just throwing a temper tantrum about today. This flag has been around for hundreds of years. It represents a lot. There's been a lot of bloodshed for that flag.
That's right.
It isn't just today in a rally being held by a presidential candidate or anything like that. It's much bigger than that. That's the thing that I would hope people would see, Andrew, is that it's bigger than that situation that you're in. I think that when you are at that point where you're going to burn a flag, you know, you have some serious problems. You got a lot of problems.
You're not solving anything with that. No. And all you're doing is pissing on the honor of those who have fought for freedom and liberty. You're not engendering yourself to them to get them to say, wow, you've burned the flag. Let me listen to what you have to say now. I'm really interested in your opinion now. No, you've marginalized yourself. It's not effective and it's disrespectful. So what's the point?
I wonder if anyone's ever gotten anywhere burning the flag. If that's ever accomplished.
Well, yeah, certain people have. They've gotten themselves all the way to the Supreme Court. And then, of course, the Supreme Court said, yeah, it's constitutionally protected. Now, it's interesting, in that Supreme Court decision, they said it is protected under the First Amendment. So over the years, we've tried to pass laws that say that desecration of the flag is, you know, some sort of a violation of the law. And the Supreme Court said, no, it's not. But you can be arrested for starting a fire without a permit. And that is why some people get arrested for it.
Okay.
If you work for the police department or the fire department, I would like to see you arrest people for starting a fire without a permit.
Speaking of amendments, again, in this presidential cycle, another big topic, which tends to always be the Second Amendment.
Right.
Which has, here in California, there's certain states that are, you know, more strict than others, like my home state of Missouri, that everybody's packing, you know what I mean? And there's...
Liberty is alive and well.
It is alive and well. Texas, there's other places where it's a totally different ball game. If you have your paperwork, you're good to go.
Yeah. My paperwork's the Constitution, in my opinion. It's pretty clear, right? So any infringement on that liberty, in my opinion, is a violation of your constitutionally protected right. Now, I've heard people say, well, you know, look, and I get it. Some people are scared, they're not into guns, and they say, well, look, we just want to have some reasonable regulations. Like maybe they should have to get a license, like we get a driver's license. Here's a key distinction. There's nothing in the Constitution that gives you a right to drive. Driving is a privilege afforded to you by the state. They bestow this privilege upon you, and therefore they can license it, they can tax it, and they can take it away from you. That's a privilege. The right to free speech, religion, to keep and bear arms is a constitutionally protected liberty and right, just like the right to marry now, as according to the Supreme Court. And recently we had the Supreme Court strike down some Texas abortion laws. So Texas wanted to create some laws that says if you're going to have an abortion in a clinic, the doctor in that clinic has to have admitting privileges in a local hospital in case the abortion goes sideways. And they said, well, this is meant to protect the health of the woman. Supreme Court recently struck that down and said that law puts an unreasonable burden and hurdle in the way of somebody who's wanting to exercise their right to an abortion, which they say is constitutionally protected. So in that same vein, how if we can apply that level of scrutiny to the protection of a right, how is it then not a violation of a constitutionally protected right to say that you have to have a license to carry a weapon, that you should have to go through a background check first to buy a gun, or that you're not allowed to have them in certain areas or things like that, or that you are allowed to have this gun but not that gun? To me, those are violations of the Second Amendment. And until Congress votes to change the law, it is a constitutionally protected right.
But yet the states are overriding that with their laws, which doesn't quite make sense, right? Federal's supposed to trump state, as far as I recall.
Well, but then again, our states are sovereign,
right?
Right, and so it's an interesting balance. So states can pass their own laws to the extent, as long as they don't infringe on an individual liberty. So states trump federal because they're sovereign on their own, except that federal can trump state. You know, look, and I'm not an attorney, all right, but that's what it comes down to, you know.
Well, so let's talk about the most recent gun violence that we've seen.
Yeah.
Okay, in Florida. Anytime this happens, you always have both sides of the argument come up and flare up. And people are saying that, well, hey, this guy legally bought this gun and this ammunition, and he took it into a place and he killed a bunch of people with it.
Yep.
We've got to do something that keeps people from being able to do that.
Right.
What do you say to people who think that that's the reason why gun laws should change?
The problem is that we're going to take away the rights of individuals for the sake of one person who acts out of line. So do we prevent everybody from being able to drive a car because we have a few people who drive drunk? No, we don't, right? So, hey, cars are dangerous and some people speed, so therefore I think what we should do is pass speeding laws. Well, we already have speeding laws. They don't stop people, right? Look, these are some great quotes I brought along here. So Thomas Jefferson, actually, who's quoting an old 18th century criminologist, says, "The laws that forbid the carrying of arms are laws of such a nature. They disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes." Okay? Such laws make things worse for the assaulted and better for the assailants. They serve rather to encourage than to prevent homicides. For an unarmed man may be attacked with greater confidence than an armed man. And that's really at the root cause of it. We have an inherent right to protect and defend ourselves. Taking away my right or your right to keep and bear arms takes away our ability to defend and protect ourselves. I should have the right to carry a gun to protect myself and my family if I want to, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. But don't limit my right and ability to protect myself. That's really what it comes down to.
Totally agree. Andrew Paul,
Yeah, buddy.
Thank you so much for your time today, man. Really
Good to see
appreciate it. Great stuff. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.